Believe it or not, what separates winners on Sunday isn't perfection. It's resilience, disciplined routines, commitment, and the will to find a way. What's up, fellow golfer? Welcome back to another episode of the Scratch Golfer's Mindset Podcast, the podcast that gives you the raw, honest, vulnerable truth about what it takes to excel, achieve your potential, cultivate a winning mindset to unlock your potential. I'm so thrilled you're tuning in today's conversation. My name is Paul Salter. I'm the golf hypnotherapist, a mindset and performance coach, and I help my clients get unstuck, out of their own way, and unlock their potential. And every single Thursday between now and the end of 2025, I am honored to sit down and have a conversation with some of the top minds in performance and sports psychology, behavior change, and in the realm of golf. And I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to connect with and catch up with my friend Mark Immelman, who's back on the show for the second time, sharing a wealth of knowledge on winning, competition, resiliency, routines, and so much more. If you haven't had the opportunity to listen to my first conversation with Mark, it's episode 58 of the Scratch Golfer's Mindset Podcast. Highly encourage you to listen to it. So many life-changing pieces of advice in there. And the quick context I want to share about today's conversation with Mark is that it was recorded live on August 12th. A lot has transpired in the game of golf, specifically the completion of the playoffs. So that'll make a lot more sense based on what it is you hear Mark and I discuss and having the context. But without further ado, get your note-taking device ready and let's dive in and join me and Mark Immelman. Mark, it's great to have you back on the show. How have you been?
Paul, I'm great. I wouldn't say I'm vacationing now, but the CBS golf broadcasts are done for the year. It was a long, exhilarating, grueling sort of a ride, but that's behind us now. And it's the PGA Tour playoffs. I'm going to do one event for PGA Tour Live, but then it's fall time, and I'm going to be a husband and father and podcaster and golf teacher and that sort of stuff. So looking forward to slowing down a little bit.
Yes, and for those of you listening, it's August 12th as Mark and I are recording this. And yeah, Mark, I feel like I saw you everywhere, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Couldn't get enough of you, but I'm glad you'll get a little bit of different and downtime here in the months ahead.
Yeah, look, don't get me wrong. It's fantastic to be out there to work on that CBS crew is a thrill of a lifetime. And there were some exciting events we covered this year. Obviously, the 2025 Masters with Rory completing the Grand Slam stands out. And the career Grand Slam, that is. And then we had great winners like Scottie and Justin Thomas. And even in the last event here, the Wyndham Championship, the way it ended, the whole season ended with folks vying for their tour cards and stuff. It was really, really exciting. So it was a good season all around.
Who's impressed you most? I'm going to give you a couple answers, and your answer can be somebody else. But this year, Rory, Scottie, JJ, JT, Justin Rose, who's impressed you most this year?
It's a really good question. I guess I would have to qualify how I would answer that. Just in terms of always doing the right thing and sort of the ultimate course manager and the ultimate in keeping himself in the present, I would say Scottie Scheffler, without a doubt. He is so married to the routine and he's so disciplined about fundamentals. And he never, ever deviates from those, even when things are going badly. So I would say in terms of just sheer resilience and routine, I'd say Scheffler. In terms of, finally scaling that mountain with a giant-sized gorilla on your back, Rory McIlroy pulling off the Masters was awfully impressive. Because you could see, there in the final round, he was trying to play free, but then he was trying to play smart, and you could see him wrestling with himself, and it was in and out and up and down. And in the end, I think even Rosie would say, Justin Rose that is, that it was a fairy tale come true for Rory to win that. And then I mentioned Justin Rose because here in the last event, the guy's evergreen. He's 45 years young. He's as fit as ever. He's as long as ever, and there's still a whole lot of runway in front of him. So Rosie is turning back the clock, which is admirable as well.
I noticed that too. He does look fitter than ever, strong, lean, hitting, the ball as far as ever. Really neat to notice that at 45 years young.
Well, he does. He's got this, I don't know what you'd call it. It's like a luxury bus that's converted into basically a traveling everything I need to get my body in shape vehicle. And from what I understand, there's like a sauna, red light sauna in there. There's a tub, a cold tub. It's everything you want. So he's leaving no stone unturned. And now because he's so physically well, all of those years of mental acumen he's accumulated, you could see it come through in the playoff. I mean, they're in Memphis where it's scorching. You're supposed to wilt towards the end. And the oldest guy in the playoffs looked like he was, tip-top form and could go more holes. So it certainly paid off because he put the work in and he's reaping the rewards therefore.
I agree. And I often come back to, I'm a big believer that fitness is the gateway to strengthening your mindset, building that resiliency, that belief in yourself, that confidence, that grit, that persistence. And just like you mentioned, we often say here with a background in football, you want to be able to play the fifth quarter. Yeah. So in this frame, there's 4 days to these tournaments, and now sudden Rosie finds himself in the playoff holes and he's just getting started. He's just as fresh as he was on the first hole on the 73rd, 4th, and 5th holes.
Yeah, no doubt. Nowadays, look, all sport, but I'm in golf. I will say that golf, if you want to compete at the highest level, you've got to be an athlete. There's no faking it anymore. And I've seen lots of athletes, but then you've got to blend the mental approach to it and the discipline of the routine, like a Scottie Scheffler, and then the discipline to choose the right shot and do the right thing on every shot, which is, again, another Scottie Scheffler move. So yeah, you got to be fit. Not one of those guys that's at the top of the game are not working on themselves physically and mentally.
Yeah, and I think for all of you amateur golfers listening, wanting to and vying for your club championships, your version of your own unique club Ryder Cup, that's your low-hanging fruit. Beginning to prioritize your fitness, not even the strength and power, the flexibility, the mobility, and then the discipline that comes as a result of consistent execution and follow-through. I mean, that is an opportunity to vault you leaps and bounds ahead of your playing pool and competitors.
Yeah, I agree. And if I could add to that, I had a recent conversation with Joe Lacaze, who is just a very, very smart human being. And he made a statement, and I'm going to say this at the risk of butchering it, where he goes, a strong muscle or a continually stretched muscle is bad. You've got to get the muscles strong, because a lot of people equate pain to being tight. He goes, he sees a lot of people that are mobile enough, they're just not strong enough. So he's like, get strong and then get mobile. Where a lot of folks are stretching, and they just need more strength. Because, the stronger you are, the more your body will tolerate, stress like heat and pressure and stuff like that.
Yeah. You used a word I love earlier, and it fittingly so is to describe Scottie Scheffler, resilient. Mm-hmm. How do you define resilience?
I guess it's that fall down 7 times, get up 8th thing. Like if you're knocked over, keep getting up. But the thing about Scottie, he has this way about him. Yeah, I think it's part discipline. It's certainly resilience, where the routine he goes through pre-shot, but it's the same thing whether he's in practice or whether he's in a tournament. And when stuff goes wrong, you won't see him suddenly chopping and changing things. He has the resilience about him to just go, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because I know it's worked in the past. So he's not one to chop and change and bounce around the place and go every which way on a whim. And so I think there's some discipline there. I certainly think it's a galvanized belief and the stick-to-itiveness. Mm. So I would sort of say resilience is some of that as well. But certainly you've got to keep getting up, and all the greats do. Rory McIlroy, for argument's sakes. If he had failed, 14 times, and failed is the wrong word, but he hadn't won the Masters or Major 14 for the last 14, and all he was asked about was that. And truth be told, he's at the place where he doesn't need to hit another golf shot ever again. It's generational wealth he's made, and he's going in the Hall of Fame. He's done it all. But he kept getting back up, and he kept working in the off season, and he kept devoting time to it, and he kept searching. He kept looking for the little swing keys, and then he found a little something late November last year and stuck to it, and it turned out good for him in April this year.
It turned out very good for him. I like that answer. And as I was just kind of jotting down notes as I was listening, I almost hear resilience in two phases. First is, you're knocked down 7 times, you're up 8. And a lot of people hang on to that. They love that cliche and that example. But I love what you said about Scottie is not only do they get knocked down and get back up, they don't panic when they get back up. They don't go and have one of those oh shit moments and try to change everything and throw at the kitchen sink at the problem. They remain, what did you say, stick to itness, the commitment, the discipline to execute their process that's been proven to work over and over. And I think that's where so many struggle, is the patience to see it through.
Well, yeah, you in your field would speak about, stick to the process. And all too often I find golfers give up when they're right on the doorstep of breaking through. And I know it's easy for me to say, because I've been there when the game's struggling. And when the game's struggling, it's easy to panic or look for something else or the next fast fix. But if you know you're on track and you know you're doing the right thing, you just got to stick to it, because you never know when it's going to change. That's sort of the mantra on the PGA Tour and with the elite golfers, where they'll all tell you they're only one swing thought or one good shot away from a turn in fortune. And it reminds me of a quote by an author, motivational author named Og Mandino, who wrote various books, and one of them was The Greatest Salesman in the World. And it's a great story. And one of the lessons that this young man was getting from the greatest salesman was the 4 famous words, or the 4 words you must never forget. And I paraphrase, but those words are, "This too shall pass." So wherever you are, whether things are going bad, it'll pass. This too shall pass. Just stick to what you're doing. If you're going well, you got to remain cognizant, because this too will pass, because everything ebbs and flows. And so that's always stuck with me, and it's sort of become a little bit of a motivational deal I share with any competitors, because it's such a volatile deal, and especially in golf. Golf will change fortune in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, and from that, I hear just the ability to cultivate awareness and kind of take that 30,000-foot objective view, noticing, there are ebbs and flows like you shared with life. And that deep knowing allows you to be able to reclaim that composure, that commitment to process, trusting the ebb and flow will move in your favor sooner or later.
Yes, you're right. That's perfectly paraphrased. But no one said it would be easy. But that's where the resilience kicks in, I feel like. And that's where you're like, okay, I'm going to stick to this. And it's going to be tough sledding, but that doesn't mean I can't do it and I can't handle it. I said something on a show yesterday, and the guy goes, "I'm going to use that." And the quote I made was, "You never fall to the top of the ladder, or you never fall to world's number 1. You don't stumble into that position. You're at the top because you've outlasted everybody else. Yes, you're obviously gifted, but you've weathered all the storms that you've had on the way, because it's never plain sailing. You just sometimes got to know how to sort of position your sails so you can take advantage of the headwinds sometimes."
Speaking of that, resiliency, not giving up, what do you make of JJ Spawn's season?
Oh, well, career changing. And I love his observation about it, because he's so matter of fact. And you can see him, he's just very, very thankful for where it is. But I made the comment on a post-game show the other day where people were talking about him, and I said to them, I'm like, the thing that I see out of JJ as a golfer now is that he plays without the care of the results. It's like he's had this career-defining moment where he's won the US Open, major champion. He's had the best year of his career, and it's like, wow, this is playing with house money. But he's had the luxury of being in the doldrums and nearly losing his card at one stage, nearly giving up the game. So he's been in that place where it's like, okay, I've been the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and at the end of it all, I'm still JJ, husband and father, who plays golf. And so there's this perspective about him where I watched him play in the recent event, the FedEx St. Jude Championship, and he just looked like he was swinging so free. He was at this, because that intersection between trying too hard and not trying hard enough, it's a fine balance there. Anyone never really gets there. But I feel like that happens when you care to do the right thing, but you don't care about the result. Mm-hmm. And coming down the stretch there, he didn't miss a shot. He was just stepping up there, swinging freely, hitting the ball down the fairway, going up there, swinging the putts freely, and it didn't look like there was concern for what might happen. And long may that continue, because he's proving to himself he's a really sound golfer.
Yeah, he had some great putts on the stretch too. That was fun to see. You said something really interesting to me. He's had the luxury of spending time in the doldrums. The luxury. That's a really intentional word choice. Elaborate on that for us.
I think I may have heard some smart guys say that in the past. No, here's what I know for certain, right? Because I've been around high achievers. And you're supposed to, everyone will tell you, it's a cliche, and you use the term cliche. You'll lose and everyone will say, hey man, it's a learning experience. It sucks to lose. And if you lose a bunch, you can do two things. You can either just pack it in and give up, or you can choose to look for the lessons in the loss. Because it's not like they come up and slap you in the face. You know, to look back at the failures honestly, or the losses, and go, yes, I could have done that better. Or no, I missed a beat over there. Or something to that. There are lessons, but you've got to mine for them. They don't come to you. And so I feel like losing is a luxury. And when you've struggled, you come out of there more empowered, to me. You speak to anyone that's been through a big slump. On the other end, they're different, and they're sort of more okay with being okay, if that makes sense to you. Where
unfazed, attached.
Yeah, exactly. And then the high achievers who win, all of a sudden they lose and you don't know how to deal with it. So to me, maybe I'm just a wordsmith, but luxury fits because it is. Like I'm trying at 54 years to look upon every experience as if I'm supposed to be there. And there's something positive that's going to come from that. Now, maybe that's my belief, but that's how it is. And so if I'm in a bad spot somewhere, I'm going to use that as a luxury and try and glean the lesson out of it, even though it's painful.
Speaking of challenging weekends, spending time in the doldrums, if you will, what advice would you share with Tommy Fleetwood?
Shucks. I'm not sure I'd give him advice. I'm most certain I'd give him a hug, because losses like that are hard. And especially for Fleetwood, because he's carrying this burden now of, not having won on the PGA Tour. And then after I've hugged him, I'd sort of pat him on the back and say, you played great for 70 holes, if not more. And you were just outplayed coming down the stretch. So really, the chips could have fallen in the opposite direction. If you get the chance again, look, I would say keep swinging freely, because when he was swinging freely, he was playing beautifully. And then you could see when things tightened up a little bit. Start of the round, towards the end of the round as well. So I'm like, look, you either win or lose, so you may as well go down swinging. And you're just so good that it's inevitable that you're going to get your chance again. So keep doing what you're doing, because you're getting in contention. And that's the only thing you can control. If you can get yourself into the mix with a chance to win, sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. And then I'll point out to him, I was the guy that said I wasn't going to give advice. I will say that there's legends in the game like David Duval that didn't win for a long time before he did. And then he was the world's number one player. Phil Mickelson didn't win a major forever, and then won and knocked off 5 quickly thereafter. So it's just people have different races. And Fleetwood's is just very public right now because it's becoming fodder for social media. So I'd be like, just keep doing your thing, man.
Well said. I love that, because you're able to show that he's charting his own story. He's on his own path, and there's history to back up. So many greats have won at different rates, and when it finally does click, it's like they can't stop it from clicking. Really encouraging him to hang in there, remain committed to his process. That's given him this opportunity. It seems like month after month, he's right there. It's just a matter of time.
He's just playing so well, and he seems so mature, and there's going to be a moment where it happens. And you know what? If it doesn't, there's been many, many great players that haven't won on the PGA Tour. Again, I think it's where you find your value. And this is getting back to Scottie Scheffler. Like Scottie goes, I love winning, but it doesn't define me. He goes, yes, I work hard. I'm a golf junkie, I think was the words he used. He's like, yeah, I'm going to work and I love competing and I want to beat you. But, at the end of it, I'm going to win and go, oh, this is cool. Now it's on to the next one. So I think Tommy could perhaps use some of that to say, look, if I never win a PGA Tour event, I'm still going to go down as one of Europe and certainly England's best golfers ever. Yeah. So it's just a tough deal right now. And personally, it hurt to watch him not win. But I know in my soul that he's going to because he's just too good not to.
It was such an interesting leaderboard on Sunday because there were so many fun stories to root for. You can make a case for every single one. And, Rosie winning in the playoff, fantastic. Spawn winning again would be great. But yeah, Tommy just so close to that breakthrough. Coming soon.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, it was fascinating. And it was the thing about the golf course, it's cool too, because it always has, one or other hero that comes through and one or other disaster. I mean, I've seen people fall down on that 18th hole in the biggest way. So it's perfect theater for the fans. Mm-hmm. It's hair-raising for the competitors because coming down the stretch, you've got a stretch of holes where the whole thing can tumble apart, like holes 12 and 14 and 17 and 18. And then you've got holes where you can do the hero stuff like 16 and 15 and, 11 for argument's sake. So It's the perfect theater and it always produces a great finish. But it's riddled. It's pure pleasure and pure panic all molded into one for a competitor.
Well, isn't that the human experience?
I guess so. Yeah, absolutely.
So building off of that, and I think you are one of the best people to ask this question, given, your own playing experience and just the front row seat you've had in these finishing moments. When everything is on the line, what traits consistently show up in those who win and get through to the finish line?
This is going to sound kind of, ethereal maybe, certainly esoteric. There's like a will that kicks in with the guys that win consistently. It's like I'm going to find a way. A dear friend of mine who was a longtime coach, he always said to me, winners find a way. And winning is never pretty. I think people who have not won at any level yet think that you've got to be perfect to win. You don't. Sometimes it's just a war of attrition, and winning is not pretty. Sometimes I've talked to great players who have won, and they're like, man, I didn't know where the thing was going, but I just kind of stuck to a go-to shot, and I just found a way to get this thing into the house, and I outlasted somebody else. So I think the common trait is certainly will. There's obviously talent that's involved. And then it's going to sound simple, but the reality is that the people that win coming down the stretch, they typically make a lot of putts. Like coming down the stretch, let's say you're playing the final 9 holes. If you one putt 4 or 5 or 6 times and you're in contention, you're likely going to win. It's as simple as that. Because it comes down to making a few par saves, converting a few birdies, and then you're on your way. I heard some great advice one time from Bill Harmon, who was a great coach, obviously, and a longtime caddy for Jay Haas. Okay. And Jay Haas was very cerebral in his approach to it. And he said to Bill, he goes, all I got to shoot is a lot of 33s, 34s, and 35s. And if I do that, I'm going to be a great player. Mm-hmm. So if you watch the greats and the guys that win a lot when they're in contention, they'll go around the final 9 in 33 or 34, which means they're making putts. Yeah. So there's a will about it. I think there's obviously talent, but you've got to make putts coming in. It's as simple as that.
Describe the energy for us following one of those guys or broadcasting the final few holes. Someone is really in the midst of demonstrating that will to win. What's the energy like there on the course?
The energy for me is exhilarating because you're getting to see the best of the best when they're at their best. And that doesn't happen very often. Yeah. And it taints my view of golf, I think, because every weekend with CBS, we've got the leaders, right? Mm-hmm. So every weekend I see the game being played well. But the game is just not that easy. So you're not seeing the guys that are sweating the cut or really struggling with their game. So you're seeing them at full flight. usually the energy is really high from all the fans.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing people that are decisive. You're seeing people that are convicted about what they're doing. And then a lot of the time, there's not a lot of defense played unless you're in some sort of major championship. They're just going out and they're going after stuff. And if they fall down, it's not because they were playing defensively. They were going for their shots. But to your question about the energy, it's high, and it's exciting to be a part of.
So it's interesting your comment on the defensive part, kind of, and I'm not suggesting, I'm going to paraphrase here. Correct me if I misunderstood, but it's almost like some of that defensiveness goes out the window. They're there to win, to go out swinging, if you will. What I hear is, there's this balancing act between calculated risk and sticking to their game plan. Am I hearing you correctly that the trend begins to change to taking more or maybe less calculated risk, more risk, less calculation, those final few holes?
Well, there's a thing that we kind of go by that we call the chaser's freedom and the leader's burden.
Yeah.
Like if you're playing with a lead, you're sort of defending your fortress a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
If you're chasing, it's just you can go after stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. They don't play rash golf. If the shot's not on, they're not going to attack it. They'll just move their target somewhere else and be aggressive to that. So it's not like it's flagstick hunting all the final 9 holes. If the shot's on, they got a comfortable number, yeah, they're going after it. But if it's a 50-50 play, unless it's the second to last or the last hole, they're still giving their putter a chance to be the star. That's where Scottie, to me, is kind of the master, because if you watch his entire round of golf, you'll see him miss the ball on the dangerous side of the hole, or you'll never, ever see it. It happened shockingly twice last week, and he pulled them both off on par 3s. But usually he plays on the safe side of the flag, 15 feet. Mm-hmm. And then when he's got a great number, he'll play on the safe side of the flag, 5 feet. And then when it's a little dangerous, he'll play on the safe side of the flag, 30 feet. So Scottie doesn't beat himself, and he plays that way if he's chasing or if he's leading. And that's what makes him such a tough out. He just never makes a mental mistake with shot selection.
So well said. What stands out to me is still the exemplification of patience to put your opportunity to win in the hands of your putter, in your putter's hands, if you will, those final few holes, remaining aggressive, but still within your conservative game plan to give you the best chance to score, to make birdie, whatever it is.
I heard the philosopher that is Ted Scott, caddy to Scottie Scheffler one time. I had their group out there, and Scottie had gotten into trouble left of a green, downslope, thick rough over a bunker, fast green tilted away from him. And stuff could only go wrong with a third shot. And Ted's marching orders as he picked up the bag to walk away, he looked at Scottie and he said, "Let your putter be the superstar." Which he's basically saying, you don't have to be special on this third. Let's just not exacerbate the issue. Put this thing on the green, knock something in from 20 feet. Scottie hits on the green 20 feet, makes that, lo and behold. But it's like Ted had said to him, look, it's okay for you to hit the ball there. And Scottie's like, that freed him up. Where then you go for the hero shot when you got your back against the ropes, more often than not, that's not going to work out. So if I was to qualify my statement about the leaders, if they're in trouble, they'll take their medicine. But if they got the right club in hand, they're going to let it fly.
Reminds me, I always come back to this, so it's always worth reiterating. Dr. Joseph Parent was on my show 8-12 months ago at this point, but he said something that really stood out. Whether you're 3 up or 3 under or 3 down with 3 holes to go, the objective is always the same, to give your best self or give yourself the best chance to make birdie while taking on the minimal amount of risk possible. It's still execution of your game plan. And then, of course, there's some room for tinkering depending, if you're on the 17th hole and you need birdie to win or force a playoff. But it just still embodies this commitment and execution to the process you determined ahead of time gives you the best chance to win.
Perfectly put. And I'll just add to that. One of my observations was that if you want to win, you've got to make putts. Because if you hit it to 30 feet or if you hit it to 6 feet, you still got to make the putt.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of it. Now, you can hit the hero shot and make the putt. That's great. But all too often, I've seen people sting one in there inside 10 feet and then miss because of the expectation of that. Sometimes over the 20-footer, you feel a bit more free. It's that thing where it's like making the par putt versus making the birdie putt. So I have seen success made both ways, but it gets down to making putts when it means something.
But you bring up such an interesting point too. It's the perception of expectation. We talk about from the leader's perspective, there's always this common storyline running in the leader's head. Like I'm going to lose or give away the trophy, whatever it may be. When the truth is you haven't actually won it yet. It's a 72-hole tournament, not a 71-hole tournament. But now the expectation is you have to make this shot or you lose and give up everything. And that, as you know better than I do, creates that fear, that tension, that tightness that disrupts everything we work so hard to accomplish.
It's the prevent defense in football.
Yeah.
I mean, how often has the prevent defense stopped a touchdown or a field goal? Never. They're just not allowing the chunk play. But the other team's still moving the ball. Mm-hmm. And that's the challenge in golf, where if you have the big lead, to still play your game. Remind yourself you've earned the lead. You haven't stumbled there. You're not playing badly. You might hit a few bad shots, but keep doing your thing. And if the shot's on, take it. If the shot's not on, there's another way around it. So it's just awareness. I guess it's golf savvy and IQ.
Awareness. I wanted to ask you about this. Self-awareness is clearly an intangible among the best of the best in any sport, any industry. When you hear self-awareness at the elite level golfers, like what are they so in touch or in tune with about themselves that allows them to separate from the pack?
I would say their bodies, first off. Mm-hmm. They're very aware of how they're feeling. And if they've got their fast ball or if they don't, they're not going to try and hit a shot that they don't have. Mm-hmm. Then they're very aware of how far the ball is traveling on any given moment, because every shot they hit, the carry distance will be charted by the caddy in the bag, in the yardage book. So when they hit a ball on the green, you'll see the player and the caddy march up to the ball mark and then paste the difference to the flag. Then they write that in there. They're like, that was 7-iron into the wind that flew 170, where it should normally go 175. So they're kind of keeping real-time data. So they're aware of self, they're aware of how far the ball's going, and then they're very, very aware of conditions and how conditions are changing. Some of them use technology, before the round to see how far the ball's going to go. But they got this acute awareness of conditions because they're variable, not just wind, but temperature, air density and how the ball goes differently. So there's a lot of presence of mind, because at that level, a shot can change your life, really. Yeah. So they leave nothing to chance. So I would say self-awareness is off the charts with all the really good ones.
Yeah. So when you think about the greatest winners you've been around, is there a single, let's call it a phrase, a lesson, or a belief that they all seem to share?
Yeah, hard work. They work very, very hard. Sacrifice is another. I think every great achiever has made umpteen sacrifices through his or her life.
Yeah.
That is for certain. And then you said it earlier, I think there's a belief in self, a belief that I can do this.
Yeah.
Because it gets me to the story of, Joshua and Caleb and the spies who were sent into Israel to go and scout the promised land. Yeah. And 10 of the scouts came back with a report that was like, there's giants over there, we're never going to make it. And Joshua and Caleb come back and they go, oh, it's a land of milk and honey. I mean, let's go in there. So they weren't looking at the problems. They were looking at the fact that everything's good in there. So the winner at the highest level, they're not grasshoppers. They know that they belong there. And they might be playing against the Tiger Woods, but they believe in their heart that they can beat him. They might not, but they're going to let him know, and they're going to give it their very best. Instead of going in there one down because you believe in that this is Tiger Woods and I can't beat him. So I think self-belief is a big part of that as well. And
permission to let that belief shine, to inevitably give them every chance possible to play to their potential, I imagine as well, has to be there.
No kidding. Well, that's your avenue, and I'll defer to you on that. But most certainly, everything to me is a decision. You can choose happy or you can choose sad. You can choose belief or self-belief. You can choose let it go or play safe or hold on to it. So everything is a choice. And I think the choice to get in there and go, okay, this is my moment, I'm going to shine, as opposed to this is my moment, oh, I'm just going to kind of slink away and into the shadows kind of deal. Yeah, there's certainly permission to do that. and you give it to yourself, I think almost consciously, to say, okay, let's go and do this. You're capable.
Well, most people are afraid to shine. I mean, I always come back to, this fear of shining, fear of standing out. Like the word outstanding literally means to stand out, but we're all ingrained one way or another with this fear of standing out. And we've talked about this before. It goes back to tribal days where if we stood out and were rejected, judged, or abandoned by our tribe, well, we literally died. And as silly as it seems now, thousands of years later, it's still true, because whether it's our familial relationships or our friendships, now we run the risk of resentment, envy, jealousy, anger, soured or strained relationships. And that's a threat on our identity and all we know.
Yeah, well, the reality about standing out is 50% of the people are going to love you and 50% are going to hate you. And you know about it if you pay attention to social media. So, yeah, there's, it's not risk, but there is the potential for that involved. And that's where you go into the thing eyes wide open. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be, very few heroes are loved by all and sundry. And if you're giving yourself permission to pay attention to the noise around you, you're probably going to be a very confused puppy. But if you're like Scottie Scheffler, who's like, I really don't care what you guys think. I love my wife. I love my God. I play golf. I'm going to win. Then I'm going home to be with my son. And I don't want to answer any more questions. He is the ultimate in having this whole thing figured out, because he is not fussed at whatsoever with what people think about him. No. Not as sausage as he concerned with what people are thinking.
Yeah, what a superpower. So you said something.
It is a superpower.
It is. At the very beginning of this conversation, and I made a note to eventually get back to it. It's a good moment now. You were talking about just your busy workload this summer, priorities always ebbing and flowing, to go back to an earlier part of the conversation, season changing for you. I'm going to throw 3 words your way: achievement, sacrifice, balance. How are they all interrelated? And maybe even in speaking to your personal experience, because I've gotten had the pleasure of getting to know you. I know you have big goals. How do you integrate sacrifice? How do you find balance achieving your goals and desires?
Well, I think success happens at the intersection of all of those. And like I said, every great achiever sacrifices stuff. You know that. You are, and you're around high achievers. So as far as those words go, I think they're not independent of each other. They are mutually dependent. Like if you want to be successful, you're going to have to sacrifice. And that's where the balance comes in, to go, okay, well, now I've got to find a way to balance what I need to do to be successful, at the same time, understanding what other commitments I have. So it's not the easiest thing in the world, but I think the people that have their priorities in line, they find that a little bit easier. But it comes down eventually to what one's goals are. If your goals are success and purely success, you can be ruthless and cut out everything in your life. Or if you want to be more human being who is successful, then you're going to have to manage the thing a little bit more.
I hear what it comes down to, and I echo everything you said, is honesty. And honesty with yourself about what you want. Because you're right, you can be ruthless and be 120% all in on your goals at every single cost necessary. And you have to be aware of and okay of what sacrifices and lack of balance might be experienced as a result. Or if you're someone who wants to be good, not great, and you want the family life, the traditional relationships, yada, 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 you have to be honest with yourself about what it is you want as well, because that impacts your work ethic. It impacts how and what you communicate about with your loved ones or those in your inner circle.
Yeah, honesty is a big one. And then I would say to that, it's the people you surround yourself with. Yeah. You'll hear the golfers on the tour talk about their team, because their team make this all easy. And the team know that they've got to fit in with the agenda and the schedule, as opposed to having their own agendas when they come to an environment like that. So yeah, honesty is a big part of it, and honest about what one is wanting to achieve and what you're prepared to sacrifice. But along those lines, who you surround yourself with will more often than not define how far you're going to get in terms of reaching your goals.
Yeah, and for those of you listening, you'll recall I've shared this before. Like, I struggled for a while. I was not honest with myself about what I wanted in life, and I would try to have it all and do it all and appease others and please others at the expense of my own, inner voice, the darkness in me that was telling me, "Hey, be ruthless, go after your goals." And it's taken mistakes, trial and error, a few more years under the belt to really find a sense of safety and confidence. This is what I want. I'm letting go of the care and opinions of others, and as a result, it's put the people in my life that support me, unconditionally, and it's allowed me to start taking steps in that direction. But it hasn't come without proper honesty and communication with myself and with others.
Yeah, the communication now, I think, is the common denominator.
Yeah.
Because if you're not honest and you don't communicate your desire, the other people can't mind read. Exactly. And so then the whole thing that's going to eventually ensue from all of that is just discord. Mm-hmm. And when there's no harmony, you've got very little chance of being able to focus on what you're supposed to do when the gun goes off or when the whistle blows or when the first tee shot is struck. So, yeah, the communication and the honest communication is crucial to success.
Yeah. Is there a player right now that you're most excited about heading into 2026 and beyond?
That's a good question. I have not thought about that. I think the whole bushel of all of them is just very exciting. Yeah. Because there's some cool rivalries that are developing. I think Scottie and Rory is fascinating. The guys vying for the top of the pile. And then you got maybe not the top billing guys, but guys that could be the lead actor if Scottie and Rory went around, like a Ludwig Oberg or a Xander Schauffele or someone like that. So it's a really cool ensemble we have. And golf on the PGA Tour is just very healthy right now.
Yeah, what a time to be alive, witnessing, playing, experiencing it in real time. I agree. So many unique, fun, exciting storylines, a little bit of hero here, villain there. I mean, it makes, like you said earlier, great theater, great watching every weekend.
Well, that's the thing. In terms of Scottie and Rory, there's not really a hero or villain there. I mean, it's like pick your poison. Like when Brooks Koepka was around, he was quite happy to be the villain. He was like, "Yeah, I'll be that guy. I'll speak my mind. You can like me or love me or hate me. I don't care." And so it made for more fascinating viewing. Mm-hmm. But now he's not around so you got like two leading men, and you got to decide which one you like between the both of them. And so that makes for some curious viewing and fandom as well.
Yeah, I agree. I'm curious, what are you most excited about as you wind down your year? A few months left in the year. What are you working on or most looking forward to?
I'm working on my golf game, believe it or not. Yeah, I've got new golf clubs. Thank you to the folks at TaylorMade. I went and hit a few golf balls this morning. My goal is to try and beat my daughter and drive it past her, which I cannot do right now. Okay. But it's fun. I'm trying to get into shape, play some golf, play some tennis, and just sort of do the things that when the broadcast season is at full swing, you don't get to do very much.
Yeah, well, I love that for you. And I'm so glad that you were kind enough to take your time to join me here as broadcast season comes to an end.
It's my pleasure. I love what you do. I've still, where is it? I was fiddling with it just a second ago. I'll probably put it in my pocket. No, here it is. I've still got my acorn coin that you sent me. It sits on my desk.
Yes.
It's like one of my favorite things. So when you asked to come on, I'd be like, I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Where can our listeners go to not only stay in touch with you, connect with you, but also to buy your incredibly well-written book?
The book is available at back9press.com. It's called Lessons from the Best. You can also get it on Amazon. It's me elaborating on a lot of really smart golf people that have been on my podcast. You can find the podcast wherever you get yours. Search for On the Mark Golf. You can follow me on YouTube. Everything's up there as well. Just search for Mark Immelman. And then the website is markimmelman.com, and you can find the social handles there too.
And all that will be in the show notes. Mark, thank you so much for joining me once again. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Keep shining.
Absolutely. And for those of you listening, thank you for tuning into another episode. So much wisdom, so much value in today's conversation with Mark. So do yourself a favor. go listen to it again, take notes, and of course, share it with that fellow golfer who's stuck trying to get out of their own way. Spending a little time in the doldrums, help them see it as a luxury so they can accelerate to that next level of success. And of course, if you haven't done so already, a 5-star review, a rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening is greatly appreciated. Thank you again for tuning in. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Hit them straight this weekend, and we'll catch you in the next episode.